Okay, it's working, apparently.
Yeah, okay, it's live on Facebook. Okay, we'll wait for participants. We have 6 viewers on Facebook. I don't know if that's us or.
I'm not on Facebook right now. So is anyone here on Facebook for the live?
Yeah, I have it on right now. I'm about to turn it or shut the window. Let me know if it like decreases.
Okay.
You can't see the participants tab on the thing, right? On my screen.
No, I can't.
Do we have any people in the waiting room?
I'm just about to admit someone. So we can start in like 5 more minutes to let more people come.
So we'll go ahead and start at 7:10. Yes, cool. All right, I think we can go ahead and start because we are losing viewers on Facebook. So if Rhino wants to go ahead and introduce just Sahata's, like what we stand for, what we're doing, and then we can go ahead and get started from there.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Raina Carr, and today's Pathways webinar will be discussing choosing a major. So applying to college and choosing majors can be very overwhelming considering the abundance of majors in all these different fields. So we thought this would be a good topic to discuss today. Next slide, please. So let's start with, what is a college major? A major is a student's main field of specialization when pursuing a degree at a college or university, according to learn.org. It consists of a combination of general and specialized courses designed by the college or university. And by completing a major, you demonstrate sustained high-level work in one subject, according to collegetransfer.net. So how do you choose your major? First, you just need to ask yourself questions. Ask yourself what motivates you. Most of your time spent in college will be related to your major, so it's really important to be interested in that field of study so you can dedicate a lot of time to it. Additionally, people tend to do better in classes that they're actually interested in. Another thing to ask yourself is there a particular career you want to pursue? Most graduate schools like PhD programs, medical school, law school, etc., they don't require you to complete a specific major, but they do require completion of prerequisite courses. And if that subject matter interests you, you may want to consider choosing a major that includes those prerequisite courses. And finally, do any of the schools that you're applying to have any special programs that interest you? For example, UC Davis has a renowned animal science program due to their top veterinary school. So individuals interested in pursuing veterinary medicine may consider completing the animal science major rather than a general pre-health major like biology. Other things to consider are major satisfaction and happiness. This could be linked to whether you're truly interested in the subject you're studying, or it can even be related to the rigor of your major. Sometimes majors can be challenging and you must commit most of your time to school. So think about your willingness to devote this time and adjust your life balance. You can look into more information about this and look into average major satisfaction rates online for more insight. Another thing to consider are economic factors. College can be expensive and it might it might be worth it to look into possible career opportunities from the major you're studying. And you can evaluate things like job satisfaction, average yearly earnings, and employment rates in that field. And finally, it's important to communicate and ask questions. Before declaring your major, speak to people who can give you firsthand insight and information. Talk to school counselors who can have technical information, or even your teachers who might have majored in your particular field of interest. If you have network or connections with people in the career you're interested in, talk to them, see what they majored in, ask them questions. And finally, talk to your peers and individuals who you know are in college or in the major that you're interested in, because they're an extremely accurate source about their experience with courses and their day-to-day life as a student. Many people are willing to share their experience and share information, so don't be afraid to ask. So when do you declare your major? Most four-year universities don't ask students to decide their major until the end of their sophomore year, which is their second year of study. You'll have the opportunity to declare your major when initially applying, but if you don't know, you can remain undeclared. This way you can take a variety of different types of courses in your initial portion of college and truly see for yourself what interests you. Most undergraduate applicants are young, and you might not know what you want to pursue. It could even be different like a year or two down the line, and that's okay. According to the US Department of Education, within 3 years of initial enrollment, about 30% of undergraduates in associate's and bachelor degree programs who had declared a major had changed their major at least once. As you can see from this statistic, changing your major is possible and relatively common. If you declare your major when you apply, you're not completely tied to it at the beginning of your college career. If you really dislike it, it's important to do your research and take initiative when switching majors. Talk to advisors in order to stay on top of the process so you don't miss any deadlines. They can help you along the way. Especially when switching majors in a completely different field of study may be a little complicated compared to when switching majors within your field. So what about double majoring and minors? So if multiple fields of study interest you, you can consider double majoring or picking up a minor. A minor is a small subset of specialized courses in a subject matter that the university or college designs the same way a major does. Typically, it consists of less required courses though. So double majoring is more coursework than a major and a minor, but can suit you depending on your interests and career goals. The dual majors are typically given under the same degree. For example, you can get a degree in business, you can get a degree in business, and your double majors could be, you can get a BA, and your double majors could be in related fields like finance and accounting. And as for a minor is a good way to kind of dabble into a field without a large time constraint. For example, sometimes people minor in subjects that are completely unrelated to their major field. For example, if you're a biology major and you minor in philosophy. Other times, a minor could be something you might only need a few more classes to complete because your major courses and your minor courses overlap. Typically, you don't have to declare a minor until later in your degree progress. So you should look at your college's major and minor requirements throughout your time of study to find specific information about these required courses. So Before we move on to an overview of some popular major options or fields of study, are there any questions? And if no one has a question right now, just type it into the chat, and at the end of the presentation, we can answer them.
All right. My name is Jolene. I'll be taking over for the first major we're going to be talking about, which is the option to be undeclared and undecided. We'll be talking about what that means, the pros and cons, and kind of an example of how to decide where and how to be undecided, if that makes sense. So what does it mean to be undeclared? Applying as an undeclared major to a college essentially is a placeholder, so you can have up to 2 years to decide which major is best for you. So when you are applying to college, many, if not most colleges will ask you to choose which area you want to study in and what major you want to focus on. And most schools will want you to choose your major by the end of your sophomore year. This gives the student an opportunity to learn about their options while completing their general education requirements. And what I mean by general education or GE requirements, I mean the basic courses that every school makes a student take to explore other areas of study. So essentially, you have the freedom to figure out what field of study and what focus appeals to you the most without being too behind or behind at all in your up to 4-year curriculum at any university. A pro is that it gives you that freedom and it doesn't affect any financial aid. And contrary to popular belief, most of the time, it doesn't affect, it doesn't make you less competitive of an applicant. And we'll talk about the caveats to that a little bit later. There are some cons to applying as an undecided major. Some institutions that require you to pick a major prior to admission don't allow you the opportunity to change that once you're in the coursework. For example, I believe Cal Poly, once you pick a major, it's very, very difficult or not allowed to change after that. So if you're going in as biology, you're biology. Switching between majors could get confusing and complicated, especially if you have absolutely no idea, even like a ballpark idea of what you want to focus on in your undergraduate career. For example, switching from one college to another may require minimum GPA or in-class requirements, and it's still not guaranteed. And I'll get into detail what I mean by one college to another, because each university has different colleges within the university, and we're going to go through an example of that. So it can be confusing and complicated, and if it takes you a while to decide what you want to do, being undecided or undeclared, if you don't, it could end up taking longer to finish your coursework. So it's important. I think the best advice that I can give is to have some sort of idea of what you want to do, and then the nitty-gritty details can be kind of sorted out as an undecided, undeclared major. So I mentioned that there are different colleges within universities, and as a committee, we were talking about when we were applying to undergraduate programs, if we knew what that meant prior to completing an application. And a lot of us didn't. So we opened up our application and it said, pick which college you want to apply to, like which college within the university. And so an example is, I'll use UCLA as an example. So at UCLA, there's different schools or colleges of study. So the main colleges at UCLA are the College of Letters and Science, the College of Engineering, the School of Music, the School of Arts and Architecture, and the School of Nursing. There's other smaller ones. Those are like the big main ones that it's known for. So when you apply, the School of Letters of Science, you'll notice, is in most schools the biggest college at a university. So underneath, for example, at UCLA, the School of Letters of Science has about 100 majors. So anything from economics to biology to African American studies to Nordic studies to chemistry. So within this College of Letters and Science and political science, it's all within that college. So if you're going to be applying as an undeclared major, changing your major within that College of Letters and Science is easier because you're still within the college. Now it gets tricky if you're applying to the College of Engineering at UCLA, for example. So at the College of Engineering, if you apply as an undecided, undeclared major, it's more competitive. It says so on their website, on their frequently asked questions, that it's more competitive to get into the major of your choice. So if you're applying as an undecided engineer major and you want to do civil engineering or electrical engineering, it's harder and it's more competitive. But at the College of Letters and Science, the rules are way more lenient. You just fill out a piece of paper and say, hey, I want to declare English as my major, or I want to declare economics as my major. So it's important to know that schools have different colleges, and switching majors within colleges is different for each college. And like at UCLA, if you want to switch from the College of Letters and Science to the School of Engineering or the School of Nursing, you have to complete certain prerequisite requirements, have a certain GPA, and you still might not get into that major. So the main takeaway that we want you all to know is that take this time during high school to know what you're passionate about. If you want to do engineering, or if have an idea what kind of engineering you want to do, and know what the task ahead is if you're going to be applying to as an undeclared engineering major, undecided. And if you're going towards one of the more common majors like political science or biology or economics, then try to get some background information on those careers and what your options are with that, just so you're not going in completely blind as an undecided or undeclared major. It's kind of being undecided with some background information, I think, is the best bet. And this webinar is a great resource to kind of have a better idea too. So with that, I will let the next person take over.
All right, hi, I'm Smit Sarah, and I'll be talking about engineering and the computer science majors. So many kids actually explore engineering without even knowing it. Have you ever created huge structures with Legos, or even taken your toys apart just to reassemble them and better understand their functionality? Have you ever maybe built your own computer? Maybe you not only love playing video games or riding roller coasters, but love the thought of creating them too. You might be an engineer at heart. Engineering is the E in STEM, and it utilizes science and math to solve real-world problems. So the main branches of these majors are civil, mechanical, electrical, and then mining and chemical. So civil pertains to civilian purposes like building infrastructure such as buildings, highways, sanitation systems, urban planning, designing bike lanes, and more. Mechanical engineering focuses more on machinery and mechanical systems like engines and such. And then electrical engineering focuses more on designing devices and systems ranging from microchips and cell phones to power plants or generators for big cities. Mining or chemical engineering has a wide focus that spans from oil refineries to chemical components of food and or medicine. And some of the niche subfields here are, we'll start off with software developer. So this field involves more computer science and engineering, and it's more stuff like learning how to code and design applications behind programs on your phone or computer systems. It's actually become pretty popular recently for startups and developing social media platforms. There's also a lot of self-taught coders in the field, thanks to online resources. So if you're interested in this field, there's definitely a lot of openings for it nowadays. And for nuclear engineering, it involves harnessing energy released from nuclear reactions. That pertains more to the chemical engineering as well. And then there's aerospace engineering, which includes building machines that fly in air and space. If you're considering this, then you can also think about working for some of the larger aerospace companies like NASA or Boeing. And then there's biomedical engineering, which involves making medical equipment and devices like microcomputers, scanners, catheters, lasers, artificial limb use, and more to solve clinical problems. So you might even get to work in hospitals with patients. And in environmental, agricultural, and chemical engineering, there's a lot of work in maintaining sustainability and responsibility of our environment and agriculture, and also utilizing natural resources to benefit communities and businesses. In industrial engineering, it actually supports all subfields. So it provides the groundwork for other engineers to use for their projects and helps with designing and optimizing facilities or equipment. In sound engineering, if you're into entertainment, you can always take a more creative route by engineering sounds for concerts or theatrical productions through this field. And overall, the opportunities in engineering are pretty endless. You can take free introductory courses through universities like Stanford or more comprehensive courses on online sites like Udemy. Make sure you deeply understand your fundamental courses though, because the upper division classes will only build upon these and get harder. Make the most of your electives to decide what area of engineering or computer science you're interested in. Once you feel comfortable, confident, and most importantly, curious, you can look for internships near you. Living in Silicon Valley is a huge plus. Take advantage if you're in that area. It all boils down though to what problems you want to solve in the world and how you do so using science and math. If this excites you, then engineering or computer science could be your perfect fit.
Okay, biological sciences. So I have a picture up of what the US Census Bureau has to say about people that have a degree in biological sciences. So you guys can go ahead and look at that while I throw some information at you. The biological sciences major addresses many of the most important and fundamental questions about our world. What is life is one of them, even though that can be a pretty philosophical question. We like to address it with as much science as we can. How does our brain produce ideas and emotions? What are the limits to human life and physical capabilities? How do we feed the world's growing population? Questions like that is what the biological sciences major would address. And as it says on the slide, the biology major lives at the leading edge of science using the latest technology to explore molecular medicine, ecology and the environment, genetic regulation of plant and development, microbial physiology, and cell dynamics and motility. In many colleges, and by colleges, I'm gonna clear that up a little bit. By colleges, we mean like UC Merced, UC Berkeley, and just the universities, not colleges like Jolene said, as in like colleges of natural sciences. You can choose a major, and some of them will provide a emphasis track, like I know UC Merced does. So your major will be listed as biological sciences, but within that you can choose to either emphasize in molecular and cell biology, human biology, ecology, and evolution biology, and the other few I have listed. In other colleges, however, these will be their own major. So your major and your degree that you get at the end of completing your 4 years will say like clearly microbiome, whereas in other colleges, it will say emphasis in whatever you choose. So that's one thing to look out for when you apply for colleges, is to make sure if there is an emphasis track, you choose the one you want to take. And if there isn't, you choose that, like I'm going to call it the bigger major that you want to take. Next slide, please. So common career pathways, the very well-known one is being a doctor. However, you do not have to major in biology to be able to go to med school or take the MCAT. That's a common misconception that is actually going away these days, but I just want to address it really quick. You do not have to major in biology. You can major in political science, you can major in psychology, you could major in like engineering and still be able to go to medical school as long as you take the prerequisite classes. So that is something to talk to your counselor about. A PA is a physician assistant, and they can prescribe, they can do almost everything a doctor can. However, there are some key differences that we can address in another webinar that we are planning that has to do with med school and like doctor versus PA and all that stuff. And then more common career pathways are nurses, pharmacists. The pharmaceutical sector is a multi-billion-dollar industry and is in constant need of biologists to work in research and development. Research is another pathway you can take, becoming a veterinarian. But then obviously you wouldn't go to med school, you would go to the equivalent of it for a vet. Biotech, genetic counselor. A genetic counselor works as a member of a healthcare team, providing risk management, education, and support to individuals and families at risk for a variety of inherited conditions. Forensic sciences is a pretty cool one that you can go into if you don't want to become a doctor or anything in the healthcare industry. Becoming a teacher, you could become a teacher at the high school level or pursue more education, become a professor. Environmental scientists, an environmental biologist is what you will be called, and you will be interested in solving environmental problems and helping to protect natural resources and plant and animal wildlife to conserve and sustain them for the future. For the future. And then another really cool one that's not on here is going into government. Biology careers in government will involve working closely with government officials and policymakers in order to advise them on and create new legislations for growing topics such as biomedical research and environmental regulations. So those are a few of the career pathways that you can take. There's some more pictures on this slide. The one that I found with what you can do with a biology degree, you can just look that up, and it's like the first image in Google. I couldn't make it any bigger, otherwise it gets pixelated. But that's what I had for you guys for biological sciences. And another quick reminder, if you have any questions or concerns, please just leave them in the chat and we will address them at the very end of this webinar.
Hi, my name is Jaskira Kara, and I'll be covering business. So a business is essentially a field in college, and it can go many different ways. It is one of the few majors where you can end up in any area that you want to be in. For example, sports, tech business, medical, retail, and many other fields require some type of business. For example, these businesses would need to manage their finances. They need to see accounting. All of them have a human resources department. So business is very appealing if you're interested in that. And one of the things you should think about before you choose business is what type of person you are. If you like numbers, then you could probably choose finance or accounting. If you're more of a people person, then human resources and management are also very appealing. And to find out where you want to go, it's important to take the entry-level classes at a college. So these entry-level classes will be available at any university, and they're available at all community colleges also if you want to get a head start in high school. So one of the most important intro class for business is Intro to Business. So this class will show you the basics of business, such as economic systems, like micro and macro economics. It'll show you general business practices that are done, risk and liability, and what liability is, which is super important. And it will show you the basics of corporate culture. And while speech and statistics aren't directly a part of the major, they're extremely important because these two classes will be used throughout your business degree, as you need to know how to speak, and statistics are super important in accounting. So for a business major or a subset in business, many high-paying jobs will require a graduate degree. So this accounts MBAs, MAs, and when compared to a person who gets their bachelor's compared to a master's, the master's will always get the job usually. And having multiple majors that connect to each other is also very appealing to employers. And for example, one of the most common double majors would be accounting and business administration, as accounting is important and you need to know how a business works to get further in there. And here we have, for example, activity focused majors and industry focused majors. So when you go to a college, you most likely focus on activity focused because human resources, marketing, finance are very common majors. However, if you want to try something different and focus on people, industry focus is also very appealing to learn how to sell insurance or real estate, and or how to learn how to manage a hotel or restaurant. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Supreet, and I will be talking to you about liberal arts and social sciences. So liberal arts can range anywhere from something in creative and performing arts to something in communications and even gender studies. It's really such a broad and diverse field, and people break it down in four main categories. So you have humanities, social sciences, which I'll talk about a little bit later, creative arts, and sciences. You know, liberal arts graduates are prepared for a variety of career options because, you know, they're prepared with those skills rather than something for a specific occupation in the future. So you can really become anything from an artist or designer to a journalist or even a teacher with this degree. Because, you know, liberal arts is designed to encourage such flexible thinking, graduates are really well prepared for a variety of roles. So now I'll talk a little bit about social sciences. It's a branch of liberal arts, and it's all about studying human behavior. So majors in this field include economics, psychology, political science, and even consumer science. So let's say you go into economics. What can you do with that? You can work as a data analyst, you can work in a consulting capacity, in finance, and you can even be a researcher. Now for psychology, you can work as a psychiatrist, you can go into counseling or even research. And those are just like a few of the many things that you can do with that degree. Political science, you can work in as a political consultant, a government official, and you can even go on to law school with that degree, even though it's not necessary to be a political science major and go to law school. You can go to law school with any degree almost. And with consumer science, so this is all about learning how consumers make decisions and how you can focus that study in a particular field like financial counseling and planning services to retail management, even hospitality and tourism management, and selling and sales management. So now you can really see how much falls under liberal arts college. And all in all, you know, if you go into this, you'll leave having, you know, become a better communicator through having a strong understanding in human behavior. You can go on the next.
So a great segue from liberal arts is into criminal justice and political science, which is one of the liberal arts. And so criminal justice is basically you're studying crime, you're studying the rules and regulations of crime, and the careers that you could go in with with a criminal justice degree is into law enforcement, even though you do not need a degree, but you can go into the FBI, CIA for just like, you know, that smart with the criminal justice degree. And the courts, you can, again, be a corrections officer who basically is a police officer within the prison system, making sure all the rules and regulations are followed. So there's that. And then there's political science, where you're studying government in theory and in practice. So theories, there are many theories that make up our government and make up like international levels of the government. And so you get to learn about those theories, and then you see them in practice, how the United States is doing it, how India is doing it, any other country, big country. And typically criminal justice and political science majors would want to go into law, and specifically political science. Everybody kind of wants to go into law or into politics. However, I want to tell y'all that like political science and criminal justice are not the only majors to go into law. You can be actually any major to go into law school. I know a person who was an art major or like a music major who went to law school. My friend had a CS degree and went to a law school. And except for if you want to do patent law, which is intellectual property, like who owns property that they create or like invent, you need a hard science background, so that's it. But if you want to study any other law, you do not need any specific major. Like I am society and environment, and I'm planning to go to law school. In political science, the most common jobs are, again, lawyer. You can be a high school teacher, teach government, U.S. history, and whatnot, and political science professor, of course. And a lot of political science professors create these theories. And you could go to radio and TV broadcaster. Everyone at CNN basically like has a JD, and they've studied political science and they know their ins and outs of the theories and government. Paralegal, you could be a paralegal with a criminal justice degree and even a political science or any other degree. Technically, paralegal is a legal assistant. Basically, you're doing all the nitty-gritty work for the lawyer or the law firm that you'll be working for. So you'll be doing casework and stuff. And there's also political economy, where you're studying politics and the economy together and the intersection of that. And you could also go to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. So you could work for Congress, whether it be House, Senate. You could work for the White House, or even the committees within Congress. And it's called the Hill. And like I got an internship this summer there, and you can be any major, and that's a job after that. You could be a staffer for a senator or congressman, where you're writing the laws. Like the congressman basically signs off. You're doing all, again, the nitty-gritty work. You're drafting these laws that you see that are being passed, and go to briefings and stuff. And you could also work in campaigns. Like right now, there's so many campaigns going on. Nobody like looks at the props. There's like Prop 16, so there's a huge campaign for that. People are working at, and a lot of political science graduates, especially during like this year, they graduated in 2020. There's like not many jobs for other majors right now because of our economy. However, there are a lot of campaign jobs because of the campaign that's happening. So that's also one aspect of going into poli-sci. But yeah, that's poli-sci.
Now, marketing and UX UI are both about making products desirable to consumers, but they just go about it different ways. So marketing intersects more with business, data analytics, creative strategy, and UX UI really intersects with technology, design, and usability. These majors can also work really well together. So double majoring can be something you want to consider if you're looking to go into a career that kind of lets you take full advantage of your creativity. So a career in marketing can either be really research heavy, sales heavy. You can become a sales representative, and it can even be creative strategy heavy. So you can go into something like brand management or advertising. You really just get the opportunity to choose which path you want to go in, a more analytical path or a more creative heavy path. Now moving on to UX UI. So a lot of people don't really know what the difference between these two things are, and yet they don't even know what UX UI is. So UX basically stands for user experience, and it kind of focuses on how people interact with an app. So like different, you know, buttons functioning, you know, wireframes, you know, prototyping an app, things like that. Whereas UI is more focused on the visual. So you go into, you know, visual design, graphic design, and even learn typography. So UX UI designers are actually really high in demand right now, you know, with technology growing faster than ever. And something a lot of people don't really know is that you don't necessarily have to major in UX UI. A lot of schools offer, you know, 16-week boot camps that kind of teach you all the skills you need and help you build a portfolio. So that's something you really want to consider in these 2 degrees, especially also marketing. If you want to go in the creative route, having a portfolio is really necessary to show the work that you've done to potential employers. And yeah, that's all I have on that. And this is the last major that we were going to talk about. So if you have any questions, we'll open up the floor to that.
There's a question in the chat that it says, what do you need to know? What do you need to do now to break into these career paths? I think they meant break into these career paths.
Does anyone want to answer that question?
Yeah, I can answer that. I think internships are a great way to peek into these like career paths, like especially for liberal arts. I know like I can't speak for I was pre-med for like a semester or so, but like your focus is kind of getting those good grades and making it to like med school or whatever school you're going to get into. And however, for like liberal arts, it's all about networking, I think. I don't know if anybody would want to disagree or agree, but getting those connections in and having that internship and building that resume, so when you do apply to school, like you have a job coming out right after, or you have like jobs lined up and connections waiting for you, you know, people everywhere. I think that's like a huge thing of getting into these career paths, and especially law. Like you need to go to a good school to go to get in there. So yeah, like focus on school, but also build your resume because that's important too.
I think it's pretty much the same for pre-med as well. You can do internships if you get them. Being a scribe is a good idea. Just shadowing people. If you know what specialty you want to go into after you become, like if you're going to go to med school, shadowing them would be a good idea. And yeah, just building your network and studying for the MCAT, because like Cindy said, like med school matters just as much as law school matters. So like you could do your undergrad pretty much anywhere is what they're saying these days. But if you don't go to a quote unquote good med school, then you're not looked at as much for jobs or residency as much as people who went to a, again, quote unquote, good med school. Anybody else want to add to this question or answer? Okay, we have another one. It says, is it a good idea if I were to major in an engineering type, but minor in something like marketing?
I can answer that. I would say that that's not a bad idea if that's something that you're interested in. As was explained earlier about minors, a minor is a good way for you to explore a field outside of your major, like your major field, and get a better, and without having to commit to a full unit load. So I think, yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you're passionate about marketing, or you want to incorporate marketing into your future as an engineer, then it's totally doable, and it's a good idea. if that's something you're into. It's not a bad idea. That's what I mean.
Yeah, to add to that, like I think a lot of engineering majors do end up going into, either doing an MBA in the future or, having that business kind of background through minor. Because, when you get into the job market, like employers will like to see that you have, those technical skills as well as like the skills that a business major comes with. So that's also something to consider. Any other questions? Well, I guess we can start wrapping things up. Oh, we do have another question. Is it possible to have two different majors, such as your main major in accounting and your minoring in engineering?
I don't know if you have to see if a minor in engineering is offered. But from what I understand, if you're minoring in engineering, that doesn't, if you're trying to go into engineering, it might not fulfill all those course requirements that you need to become an engineer, like all the computer science courses or whatnot. You can have two different majors. You could double major. I think that's what you're asking. And
Yeah.
you can major in something completely outside the field of your minor. So, what majors can you minor? Again, it depends. If you look at different schools that you're interested in, and it will give you the list of like minors that are available. So that's kind of like a hard question to go through, but you can minor in a lot of different things. Yeah, and you have time to figure that out too, because like I said, a minor doesn't require as much course load.
I just want to clear something up here really quick. Majors and minors are different. So majors is usually something that would take you all 4 years to complete, and the number of units you have to fulfill in order to like completely finish your major or fulfill the requirements is much like the unit are like the number of units is higher than a minor. A minor usually takes you a year or two, depending on what the minor is and how much overlap you have. And my 2 cents to the question you had earlier about main major in accounting and minoring in engineering, I would say don't take such diverse major and minors. Make up your mind if you can, like if it's not too late in the game. I don't know if you're already in college or or if you're still in high school. But I would say pick one, and within like a semester, you can probably tell whether it's your cup of tea or not. And if it's not, then take some courses in engineering and see if that works out. There are minors that are related to engineering that you could take, but engineering is not a minor.
And I'd like to add on to that. I think like you mentioned not to like have such separate like minors or majors and whatnot, but I think actually you can. I know like a lot of my friends are doing like data science and poli-sci, or which is like computer science kind of, and one person is doing econ but is pre-med, and these are two different things. However, I think that they will benefit you in your career afterwards. A lot of people are starting up their own businesses after pursuing like a medical like a doctorate or whatever. So I think like you can have different like two majors and or like it's completely different minor, because it'll let you know because you can always change your mind. I mean, not always, but for the most part you can. And it's important, like again, my friend had a CS degree, went to law school, and now is gonna do an MBA. So like you have this like wide array of things you can choose from if you do choose to do different things. Like I was going to do legal studies and society environment, which is like a bachelor's in science and a bachelor's in arts, just to make sure that like I've covered kind of everything. So it's all completely up to you, and you can get as creative as you want with it. That's my 2 cents.
And there's another question. Is it possible in college that I'm majoring in something, minoring in something different, yet also want to learn something outside of both of them to take a class different from both? Yes, you are allowed to do that. But again, take a look at your units. If you're doing something like engineering, I think you mentioned earlier that that might be something you're interested in. Engineering is such a there's so many courses you have to take in such a short amount of time. You might end up going over like the 4 years that people typically think college takes if you take too many classes outside of your actual major. So those are things to also consider. Academic advisors are available to you at colleges as well to help you kind of plan out your coursework and see where you have leniency. And I also want to say, I graduated college 5 years ago, and I graduated with a degree in environmental science, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. It's okay. I feel like there's a lot of pressure for people to figure out their life within these 4 years or before it. And it's okay if you're still confused when you're in college, because post-grad life gives you a lot of different options as well that people usually don't realize when they're between the ages of 18 to 21. So do the best you can to find what you're interested in, and with the limitations that the educational system gives you, but also don't feel like your life is over if you're 2 or 3 years into college or you haven't even entered and you have no idea what you want to do. Just do your best and try to find something you're interested and happy with. And how did you decide a major? That is a loaded question. It's just exploring different fields that interest you until you find something that you think that you can enjoy doing. It's a different question for everybody, if anyone wants to chime in on that.
Yeah, so kind of talking about like the first question, taking a class that's completely different than your major or minor. So a creative way to go about this is that, like, especially if you haven't started your college yet, is to see like the gen eds and like other like requirements within your major that kind of give you the opportunity to take classes like completely different than your major. So I know like in my school, my major is required to take like they call them cultural selectives, and essentially like it's loaded with all these classes in like history, language, philosophy, political science. There's tons of courses that can satisfy those requirements. So that's something you can also look into and see if you can fit in a course there, so you're not like going over the amount of credits to graduate on time. And also for deciding your major, so we will also be sending out these like 2 PDF guides. It's obviously really hard to kind of figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life, but like we have a sort of grid kind of or graphic organizer that you can write down some of your skills and interests, and hopefully that can help you better. So I think we should all collect your emails as well. So if you can drop that in the chat, then we can send that information to you.
Yeah, so as you guys are sending your emails, you can either send them to everyone or you can select to send them just to Samarine privately. Oh, never mind. He sends them to everyone. But there are also websites, and they're kind of games on the websites where you tell them what you're interested in and just aspects of your life and what you've done in school, what interests you in school, which will help you decide your major. It gives you like a list of stuff that you could be interested in. There's also one for a career. And if you just put in like how to decide your major website, a bunch of them pop up. So that's one thing. And I think deciding your major, one thing that for me, I was very limited, and that was my own default. I saw biology, law, business, and then that's pretty much it. Like I saw like the bigger majors that everyone talked about, even though there are a lot more than just the three that are usually talked about around, the society. So do some research as to what majors are available and which college you want to go to. I think once you figure out your colleges, like your reach colleges, your safe bet colleges, and then you look into the majors they provide, they will help you narrow it down as well.
Yeah, and like to just give some like hope, like I changed my major like 7 times, I think 7 to 8 times, and I came in as pre-med, that didn't work out, and switched to like legal studies, philosophy. Now I'm at society and environment, which I like never would have thought. I never knew this major existed. So I think like don't worry if you do not know what you want to do. Unless like if you're transferring, again, you have those 2 years at community college to decide, but you can change your major up until I declared my major my 3rd year. I came in as nutritional science, and now I'm pre-law and society and environment, so that's just hope.
Yeah, I came in as biology, and then I changed to I think like chemistry, and then I changed to economics, and then I changed to environmental science. I wanted to be a pharmacist, and then I wanted to be a clinical research coordinator, and now I'm a nurse practitioner student. So it's going to change, and it's okay, and there's options within school and out. I mean, within undergrad programs and outside. So just do your best, try to find something you're interested in, and talk to academic advisors and people whose careers you're interested in.
Any last minute questions?
I guess we can wrap it up now. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you being here, and we really hope you walked out learning something new. We will be sending out a post-webinar survey, so look out for that. And we will also be hosting future webinars that touch on life after college, different career paths, traditional versus unconventional, mentorship programs, and much more. And if you have any ideas, anything you want us to do, please contact us at info@sahayata.org. I'll actually type it in the chat right now. But other than that, thank you guys so much for joining, and have a great rest of the evening.
Really quick, the presentation will be put up it's already on Sahayata's Facebook page, and it will be sent out through email, I believe. Super, can answer that.
I believe so. If not, I think in a newsletter.
Yeah, either the newsletter or your email. So just keep checking your email, and you will get the presentation through that.